Hi, everybody. Welcome to the video for Monday, August 24th. So today we're going to be taking a quick look at close reading, annotating, and note-taking. Really a goal for this course and a skill that you're definitely going to need moving forward is being able to effectively break down a text, retain that information, and really have almost like a back and forth conversation with the author of the text. So let's look at the agenda for today. So go to Google Classroom. If you haven't already, make sure you do the warm-up and then come back over here. The video lesson is going to be posted to the left. And let's follow along with the slides for today. So I'm going to click those open. All right, close reading. So techniques for close reading. You need to develop an attitude of active consciousness. I know a lot of us, when we're reading, sometimes we can tend to zone out and you're still reading, but you're not really taking anything in. So you've read about 3 paragraphs. You have no idea what they were about, but you have 3 new ideas for TikTok videos. So that's not a good thing when we're trying to read for comprehension. Do not be passive, wholly accepting or completely hostile to the writer or the text. That means you can't just sit back and not engage with it. You can't just accept it at face value. You can't just mark it off at face value. You need to act as if I said earlier, it's a conversation between you and the author. Read attentively, give your full attention to the text. That one's obvious. Take personal responsibility and work hard to understand the text. So again, reading is not a passive thing. It needs to be a very active thing. Paraphrase. So this helps as you're reading the text. Every so often, just stop and either say out loud or write down what you just read. Just do a quick summary. As you write these summaries, that's going to basically help that build into your long-term memory. It's going to make it easier to recollect the information, and it also stops you from zoning out. So if every once in a while you're stopping and you're writing or you're talking about what's happening in the text, that's going to help you retain that information so much better. You need to learn to process bits of key information and keep a running inventory of key points. Again, this is an active process. Ask questions. If you're unsure of something, pose a question. Try to answer it yourself. If you can't answer the question on your own, seek help from a classmate, teacher, internet search, etc. Whatever you need. That's the beauty of the internet. You can find the answer to almost anything these days. Control your biases. So this kind of comes back to the first one, develop an attitude of active consciousness. You're not passively accepting or wholly accepting. You're not hostile to the writer of the text. If you start to feel like you're attacking the writer in your mind, you need to step back a little. You need to have a fair evaluation of the text and the text ideas. For example, political biases are often very common. But in order to think critically about a subject, you really need to know both sides of the argument. I think too many people nowadays just focus on their own, look for somebody that agrees with them and say, okay, I'm right. But really, to be able to argue effectively, you need to know both sides. You need to know what both sides are saying. Obviously, strong emotions can affect your ability to keep an open mind. So just try to keep that in check as you're reading. All right, so questioning the text. What questions do we ask? So certain basic questions, like the ones listed below, are applicable for really any kind of text we're looking at. Literary text, essays, speeches, anything like that. The number one thing we need to always be identifying, because this is going to help us in our own writing as well, if we can identify the thesis of the text. What's the assertion that the author is trying to make? What's the main point? What methods does the author use to support the main point? Examples, descriptions, personal experience, history, for instance. So if you go back to Lou Gehrig's speech, we obviously know the thesis of his speech was that he's the luckiest man on the face of the earth. How does he support that main idea? With examples from his life. He describes those around him, his personal experience with his mother-in-law, with his wife. All that comes into play. So all that backs into the idea that he is the luckiest man on the face of the earth. Start thinking about what values does the author present? Are they directly or indirectly presenting their moral framework? Do they use any special terms or expressions you need to define to understand the essay? For instance, when we looked at the Lou Gehrig essay again, a lot of those names we didn't understand. So we just looked those up really quick. If an expression does not seem familiar, just do a quick Google search. Ask somebody if they know. Does the author use any terms or expressions that cause an emotional response? And finally, who is the implied audience for the essay? So again, we look back at the Lou Gehrig, the implied audience there is going to be the fans that are in the stands that day. Okay, as you're preparing to read, you need to make some sort of connection with the author. Ask who wrote it, when did they write it, where and why. All these things, all these questions together are going to help you understand the context of the piece. This is going to be a very important thing. We're going to come back to this again. Gathering background information on the author allows you to make a logical connection between writers' lives and the topics they write about. So it does not help to just read a text and have no idea about who the author was or anything about their lives. So oftentimes, whenever I give you a reading assignment, there's going to be some background that goes along with it. And that's just so you can understand the context. Focus on the title of the essay. What can you infer from the title? Are they making their stance known right from the beginning? How long is the essay? Oftentimes, we want to read shorter essays because those are quicker. But a short essay that's irrelevant is not nearly as appealing as a long, engaging essay. So just kind of keep that in mind. Then do a quick scan of the text. So how is it set up structurally? Are there section breaks? Are there subheadings? Footnotes, visual aids? Is this a full text or is it just a selection from a larger text? So the structure will give you a good idea of what the author's going to be talking about. Subheadings, visual aids they jump off the page at you. Okay. Number 5, what type of graphical signals do you see? So is the author using quotation marks? Are italics used? What are italics used for? Obviously, they're used to kind of call out specific ideas. So if you see the same word showing up in italics quite a bit, okay, I need to focus in on that. Are there other books and authors cited in the essay? And finally, does the author use organizational tools such as Arabic or Roman numerals? So you see on the slides, you have the 5 A, B, C, D. This is an example of just using Arabic or Roman numerals to kind of organize the data. And finally, number 6, tap into your own background knowledge on the subject. A lot of times you don't even know how much you actually know about the subject until you read what the author has to say, and it's going to spark things in your memory. You're going to relate it to other things. So use your background knowledge. All right, annotating. So annotating, the process of basically engaging with the text, talking with the text is what it's referred to. So you mark the text with notes about content or personal reactions and with symbols such as question marks and exclamation points. So there's no one right or wrong way to annotate. Annotate is just simply you working with the text, asking questions. It's what you don't understand or what you feel like you need further clarification on. So no right or wrong way to do it. Just you need to do it. Okay? Annotating is not merely highlighting and underlining. Don't just randomly highlight words or underline things and think that you can go back to it 2-3 weeks from now and know exactly why you underlined those words. Especially in longer text, that information will just get lost in your memory. So if you do highlight or underline, it's always a good idea to kind of make notes in the margins or use Post-it notes, whatever you can. Make sure with the remote learning, we're doing Google Docs, so you'll create a comment and basically talk about why you highlighted or underlined something. If you look at point C here, this is probably the most important one. Learning is best accomplished by restating ideas in your own words. So if you can repeat something back in your own words, not word for word from the author, then it shows that you have a true understanding of what's happening in the text. All right, so that's just a quick background on reading techniques, the pre-reading, the questions you should ask yourself as you read. So that's going to get into our assignment for today, where you're going to annotate a work by Cotton Mather here, who was actually involved in the Salem witch trials. This is going to all lead into our study of the Crucible, which is going to probably start next week. Before you read and annotate the document, click on this link right here. There's going to be a short biography of Cotton Mather. I want you to read through this and kind of get some context This is where you're asking your who, when, what, and where questions about the author. So the more you know about the author, the more relevant the information in the testimony that it gives is going to be. So I want you to read through that. When you're finished with that, go to Google Classroom, download the assignment for today. You'll annotate that and answer the questions at the end of the document. That assignment is going to be due tonight at 11:59. So make sure you get that turned into Google Classroom. You'll just basically type in your answers to the questions. There's only 3 at the bottom, just right underneath the questions themselves. And as you are annotating, make sure you're creating comments on the Google Doc. So I know why you're actually highlighting things. Again, don't just pick random words and think, okay, this makes sense or whatever. You need to explain why you're highlighting or underlining ideas. All right. So get at it. Good luck. Reach out if you have any questions.